Did you know that the order you came into this world might be silently pulling the strings behind your career? Your friendships, how much money you make, and even how you react when everything around you goes wrong? Most people assume that who they are comes down to random genetics or personal choices. But top psychologists and researchers have uncovered an invisible system operating right inside your family tree. And it grants every single birth position its own unique, unfair advantage. Whether you were the pioneering firstborn, the invisible middle child, the wildcard baby of the family, or the hyper-focused only child, your position gave you a psychological edge that defines how you handle pressure and authority today. And if you stay with us until we reveal the rarest dynamic at the very end, you will finally understand the deep hidden reason why you think, act, and make decisions the way you do. Let us start with a position that most people completely misunderstand, the one that gets a total emotional reset button. The gap child. When parents wait 6 or more years between children, the standard sibling dynamic completely shatters. You are no longer growing up with a traditional peer. You're growing up with a third parent, living under the same roof. For the younger gap child, this massive age gap creates a fascinating best of both worlds environment. You get the hyper-focused parental attention that only children usually receive, but you also get an older mini-adult role model constantly guiding you around the house. Because gap children spend their formative years listening to adult conversations rather than squabbling over toys, research proves they mature at an astonishingly fast pace. Your hidden superpower is accelerated wisdom. You get a full preview of the real-world years before any of your peers, but the trade-off is a strange, quiet sense of isolation. By the time you are starting primary school, your older sibling is packing up to move away for college or work. You basically grow up in the very same house, but in two entirely different eras. Now, if you were born right smack in the middle, you probably spent your childhood feeling somewhat invisible, but that very feeling of being overlooked forced you to build the ultimate real-world survival kit. Welcome to the world of the middle child. While the firstborn claimed the title of the responsible overachiever, and the youngest soaked up all the attention, middle children were left to figure out life on their own. To survive and thrive, you had to become an absolute master of human observation. You learned how to read a room in seconds, mediate intense fights between your brothers and sisters, and pitch your needs to completely exhausted parents. In adulthood, this unique position transforms middle children into elite negotiators, brilliant diplomats, and relentless entrepreneurs. You are never bound by rigid family traditions because you were granted the freedom to forge your own independent path. You naturally build massive, loyal networks of friends outside the home because you recognized early on that family attention was a limited resource. By the way, if you are discovering where your true hidden strengths come from, hit that subscribe button right now. We release deep dives into human psychology every single week, and you will not want to miss our next episode. So what happens when parents completely throw the rulebook out the window? You get the youngest child. By the time child number 3 or 4 arrives, parents are usually far too exhausted to strictly enforce every single rule. Bedtimes get pushed back. Minor mistakes are laughed off, and the constant pressure that crushed the firstborn practically vanishes. To stand out in a house packed with bigger, stronger, and smarter people, youngest children develop a totally different kind of weapon: pure charm and humor. You could never physically or intellectually overpower your older siblings, so you learned how to disarm everyone around you with your personality. This dynamic transforms youngest children into natural risk-takers, captivating performers, and brilliant creative thinkers. You spent years watching your older brothers and sisters make huge mistakes, which allowed you to navigate life without having to burn your own fingers. The only potential trap. Self-discipline can be tough to build later in life because you are so accustomed to others stepping in to save the day. But socially, you will almost always be the most magnetic person in any room you walk into. Now let us completely flip the script. What if you never had to share parental attention or compete for resources at any point in your life? Enter the only child. There is a massive common stereotype that only children are inherently selfish or spoiled. But decades of psychological data prove a totally different reality. Without any brothers or sisters to pass the time with, only children naturally spend the vast majority of their childhood interacting with adults. This constant adult interaction expands their vocabulary. At an early age, sharpens their critical thinking and drives their ambition to match or even exceed the highest achieving firstborns. Your hidden advantage is absolute self-reliance. Only children are deeply comfortable in silence. They never panic when forced to work alone for long stretches of time, which makes them extraordinary writers, elite researchers, complex problem solvers, and master software developers. While they often have to learn the delicate art of compromise later in life, through friend groups rather than daily sibling battles, their ability to dive deep into independent, complex work makes them virtually unstoppable, which brings us to one of the most remarkable biological dynamics on the planet. Twins entering the world with a built-in partner from day one means twins entirely skip the difficult childhood phase of learning how to share. They are forced to do it from the moment they are born. In fact, up to 40% of twins develop their own completely secret communication language long before they ever learn actual words. Because they grow up with a constant lifelong companion, twins score extraordinarily high on tests, measuring emotional intelligence, deep empathy, and social confidence. They suffer from dramatically lower rates of social anxiety as adults because they have literally never experienced what total physical or emotional isolation feels like. Their ultimate challenge is not learning how to build connections. It is learning how to carve out a unique individual identity when the rest of the world constantly views them as a package deal. Finally, we arrive at the powerhouse position that statistical data proves fills more than 50% of top corporate executive roles and world leader positions, the firstborn. Before anyone else arrived, you had the entire universe of your parents centered exclusively on you. That translated into thousands of extra hours of direct adult conversation, intense milestone tracking, and incredibly high expectations placed directly on your shoulders. Firstborn children carry the unique weight of being the educational trial run for their parents. You learn to meet strict standards, becoming highly organized, deeply rule-following, and endlessly ambitious. But your true secret advantage kicked in the exact moment your younger sibling was brought home. From that day on, you took on the role of a teacher, constantly explaining how the world works to a younger child. This process triggers what scientists officially call the tutor effect, dramatically boosting your own cognitive intelligence, organizational authority, and lifelong confidence. You were built to lead and manage because you were actively trained to lead from the very moment you became an older sibling. Every single birth position grants you a completely distinct psychological toolkit. The real question you need to ask yourself is, are you actually using yours to its absolute fullest potential? Click the video appearing on your screen right now to discover exactly how your specific personality type handles high-pressure stress and unpredictable crisis situations.